So Cornel West, he's got this weird like buddy sitcom relationship that goes on with Hannity,
Right.
where it's like, I disagree with everything you say, but you're my dear brother. And Hannity's like, I hate you too, and black people, but you're my dear brother. So anyway, Alan Dershowitz, your favorite. You've always been they call you a Dershhead.
Well, I appreciate his Epstein ties in particular.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite aspects.
He did not get touched by that woman. He just went on the flights and whatever. Anyway,
Sure.
So Alan Dershowitz went on Hannity's show, and they had on Cornel West. And of course, naturally, Hannity starts it, but they ambush him. They ambush Cornel West. Why? Because he dares to show any semblance of nuance in the conversation
Of course, you
on
can't do that.
the war in the Middle East. But it gets heated. Watch this.
Engage in crocodile tears, blame it on Israel when the entire blame is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli children.
What is Hamas's charter?
I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies or Israeli babies. I want you to have the same indignation when Palestinians are killed.
Not when they're killed. Not when they're killed by Palestinians. You can't make a moral comparison. When Nazi kids were killed in the bombings of Dresden, I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums. You're a professor of theology. Don't you understand the moral difference between deliberately murdering a kid and having collateral damage because there are human shields? You're running for president of the United States. What would you do? Wait, let me tell you. Let me ask the question. Let me ask the question.
Okay.
What would you do if if terrorists were firing at American children in America and the terrorists were hiding behind Palestinian children? Would you allow the killing of Americans to continue, or would you go and get the terrorists, even if it meant possibly collateral damage on Palestinians? What would you do?
I'll tell you exactly what I would do. First, truth and morality tend to be two casualties in any context of war. I would want to tell the American people the truth. I would tell them what the context is, how we found ourselves in this situation. I would not jump for a military invasion and a genocidal attack on a
genocidal attack
on Gaza.
No, it's not a genocidal
Where are they supposed to go?
When you're
Where are they
killing
supposed to
terrorists.
go? Bro, this is like Warsaw, 1943. Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Yes.
Let me tell you where they go. They go to the UN. UN is keeping
from Gaza to Geneva?
They go to no. The UN has places in Gaza. They go to the Rafah crossing.
11 UN people have been killed in the last few days.
They go to Egypt. They go.
Egypt, how they
wait a
can't
minute.
get out.
Let
Come
me
on,
make
brother.
another thing clear. Gaza City is very dense. But Gaza itself, the Gaza Strip, there's lots of room. The Israelis have said, get out of Gaza City. Go to Rafah. Go to Khan Yunis, go to other places. And you know what Hamas is saying?
With no water, no food, no electricity.
You know what Hamas is saying? Hamas is saying, don't go.
Oh, I'm not here to defend Hamas.
Well, you are here.
No, I'm not defending Hamas.
Wait a minute.
Don't you ever lie on me like that, brother. I'm defending the suffering of Palestinians.
I want to hear
Hamas itself committing war crimes.
I want to hear you say.
Anybody who commits war crimes are barbaric. I'm saying that explicitly, but I want you to say if the Israeli Defense Forces are killing children, are they barbaric too?
No.
Are they ever barbaric?
No. If they target children.
Yes. Have they ever targeted children?
Absolutely. Never in the history
78 years.
have they ever targeted a child
you got to get off the crack pipe.
I agree with Cornel West when he says, get off the crack pipe. Okay? So many points there. Number one, the collateral damage argument. Look, Alan Dershowitz, the concern is, and I think this concern is very well founded, it's actually not collateral damage. It is very much on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, we know that they're doing a medieval siege of Gaza where there's 2.3 million people and nearly half the population is 15 or younger, right? So we know they're cutting off everybody's electricity, everybody's water, and we'll get to more on this in a second, but civilian infrastructure is being bombed relentlessly. And when you look at Operation Protective Edge in 2014, it was the lowest number was they killed 63% civilians. The highest number was 80% civilians, and it included over 500 children. When you're killing up to 80% civilians, don't tell me it's a, whoops, my bad, because I don't believe you.
Yeah.
If 80% of the time, same thing, when Barack Obama had a 90% civilian death rate with the drones, it's like, oh, you actually don't care that you're killing civilians.
That's right.
You're okay with killing civilians. That's the first point. Second point is the human shields argument drives me nuts. Because here's the idea of a human shield, okay? Somebody goes into your kid's school and they have a knife and they hold the knife up to your kid's throat. And let's say there's 3 terrorists doing this and they have 3 kids with knives up against their throat. Should the local police force then carpet bomb the school and kill everybody inside, including all the kids and all the teachers and all the innocent people? Is that what they should do? Because in that context, everybody looks at that and goes, of course you don't do that. But the logic from the Israeli government, when you give them those facts, is like, no, you should carpet bomb the school.
Right.
It's like, we don't agree.
We
don't agree.
The kids as human shields.
Yes.
So any level of civilian atrocity is
acceptable, and it's 100% their fault. No, you have a choice. You have agency in that moment on how to respond. And this is why I keep saying the Hamas terrorists that actually purposely targeted civilians, go after them, but use special forces so that you don't have any civilian deaths. Dershowitz says, quote, it's not a genocidal attack. Well, when you're doing a siege of all of Gaza and half of Gaza is children, how can you say that when they've hit literally thousands of civilian apartment buildings, when they've hit a number of schools and hit a number of hospitals? He says, well, go to the UN shelter. They bombed one of the UN shelters. And then beyond that, 5 others were damaged. And by the way, there's 200,000 people who are trying to get into those shelters. And so I'll end on when he says the IDF killing children is not barbaric. And it's like, well, that just says it all right there now, doesn't it? The point of Cornel West is I am against war crimes. I am against civilian casualties across the board. Intentional, unintentional, on a goat, in a moat, it doesn't matter. I'm against civilian casualties. And his point is, no. And he actually says, he brings up like Nazi kids. If a Nazi kid was killed, would you care as much about that as, one of the Allied forces kids or whatever? And it's like, dude, children are not Nazis. They are children. How can a 2-year-old be a Nazi? They're shitting in their diaper. They have humanity, right? Like, it's not like these people are all innocent, like Hitler's right-hand man or some shit. They are children. They're innocent by definition. And he's like, no, actually, they're not innocent. Would I care about German babies during World War II? Of course I do. Of course. Who did I want you to murk? I wanted you to murk Hitler. I want you to murk Goebbels. I didn't want you to murk a 2-year-old or some toddler. What are you, crazy?
Yeah. And I'm sure to the mother whose child is murdered, it's not a lot of comfort that, it was collateral damage, so it was morally actually fine.
Yeah. It's crazy too because, it's not as if like I think that people, when you use the phrase like human shield or something, they have sort of in their minds the idea that you have like a Hamas militant who's about to like fire a rocket into Israel and they put a child in front of them and oops, the Israeli airstrike hit both of them. But it's like, no, if you actually look at the way that Israel defines what classifies as a human shield, it basically includes the entirety of the Gaza Strip.
That's right.
And I mean, also they don't provide, with the AP building example from a couple of years back, they flatten the AP building to the ground. Do they provide any evidence for Hamas militants being in that building? No, I mean, in many of these instances, they provide absolutely no evidence or justification, even sometimes in secret, to the United States government behind the scenes. And so it's like, no, I mean, I don't buy that line at all. It seems like, it's a very obvious excuse for them to go in, have absolutely no regard for, Palestinian children whatsoever, and then just throw that all on Hamas's shoulders and say, well, they're all responsible for. I mean, I've literally seen people today on Twitter saying that every single civilian death in Gaza is the responsibility of Hamas, as if the government of Israel has no agency in this, especially given the fact that they have all of this high-tech military equipment and any surveillance state and all this military apparatus that the people in Gaza have absolutely nowhere close to that or nothing remotely resembling that. And so it's just, I mean, it seems like it's just a very obvious excuse for endless brutality. And it's obviously going to escalate, I think, over the next couple of days from here.
Netanyahu has used a lot of rhetoric about, like, this is about the civilized world versus barbarism.
Yeah.
And it's like, you actually have already surpassed the barbarism of Hamas. Mm-hmm. Because you are literally collectively punishing the entire population. And now the deaths on the Gaza side are even more than the horrific Israeli atrocities. So if you're such a civilized nation, you should be able to handle this in a more pinpointed way of going after the people who are actually the murderers, who are actually the terrorists, who actually do bear responsibility and show what an example of civilized behavior you are to the world. But, you know, the other thing, Max, to your point, I mean, not only did they get caught lying all the time. You mentioned the journalist Shireen before and how they initially were like, oh, no, we think it was the Palestinians. No, it wasn't. It was, you know, after the fact, huge investigation. Clearly it was IDF bullets that killed her. You know, they lied about that AP building. They said they tried to argue, oh, Hamas was in there, human shield, et cetera, et cetera. No evidence that Hamas even had offices in the building, anything like that. So they lie all the time about these things. But you also just had this tremendous intelligence failure. You didn't see this huge attack coming. You were actually warned about it, and you were so arrogant that you were like, no, we don't think so. We're more worried about what's going on with the Jewish settlers. So even the idea that they could like pinprick target where Hamas terrorists were in Gaza, like, I don't think anyone should have any confidence in their ability to know where people are. They're hitting markets. They're targeting paramedics.
Mosques.
The UN, UN relief agencies where, you know, Dershowitz is telling Cornel West that people are supposed to gather are getting struck. Schools.
12 of them are dead, by the way. 12 UN.
And Red Cross paramedics are dead as well. So, and this is such a densely packed area. It's one of the most tightly packed, densely populated places on the entire planet. People can't leave. There is nowhere they can go to be safe.
Yeah. So that was one of the wild back and forths I wanted to share with you.